Your brain is actively sabotaging your best decisions by hiding facts that threaten your ego. You think you are objective, but a specific cognitive mechanism is sorting incoming information and trashing anything that makes you uncomfortable. This mental filter dictates your career, your relationships, and your bank account. By mastering these hidden negotiation tactics, you can finally override your brain's self deception and stop the constant internal lying before it costs you everything. Used to win arguments, but almost nobody uses in their daily life. Grab a glass of water, get comfortable, and let's explore the architecture of your own perception. Have you ever felt like the world is becoming more polarized? Like, no matter how much evidence you show someone, they just retreat further into their own corner. It feels like we're living in different realities. That's not a coincidence. It's a psychological phenomenon called confirmation bias. In 05242023, a study conducted at the University of California, Berkeley analyzed how voters process contradictory information about political candidates. The researchers discovered something chilling. When participants were presented with data that challenged their existing beliefs, their brains physically lit up in regions associated with emotional distress. It wasn't just that they disagreed. Their biology was fighting back to maintain their current worldview. Let's start with the easy win: how to spot this happening in real time. Most of us think we look for information to form an opinion. The reality is the exact opposite. We form an opinion, then we hunt for evidence that makes us feel good about that opinion. Think of the last time you searched for something on Google. Let's say you were considering buying a specific brand of car. If you were leaning toward that car, your search bar probably said, "Why is the X brand reliable?" But if you were skeptical, you typed, "What are the common problems with the X brand?" You weren't searching for the truth. You were searching for validation. The moment you realize that your search queries are biased is the moment you gain control. Next time you're researching a life decision, force yourself to use the devil's advocate search strategy. Type the exact opposite of what you want to believe into the search bar. If you want to believe in a new diet trend, search for why this diet fails. It's uncomfortable. It might even be annoying, but it is the fastest way to break the echo chamber in your own head. Now, let's level up to something more sophisticated. This is where things get interesting because we aren't just talking about search queries anymore. We are talking about the backfire effect. In a landmark study by researchers at the University of Michigan, they found that when people with strong ideological beliefs were shown evidence that flat out disproved those beliefs, they didn't just ignore the evidence. They actually became more convinced they were right. Think about that. You present hard, cold facts, and instead of changing their mind, the other person doubles down. This happens because the ego perceives a factual correction as a personal attack. Your brain prioritizes tribal belonging over the objective truth. If you lose an argument, you lose status in the tribe. So, how do you fix this for yourself? You have to decouple your identity from your beliefs. Treat your opinions like software on a computer. They are not who you are. They are just tools you use to interact with the world. If a piece of data comes in that contradicts your software, don't update your ego. Update your database. Tell yourself, I am a person who changes their mind when the data changes. This simple linguistic trick reframes losing an argument as gaining a more accurate map of the world. If you're finding this helpful so far, hit subscribe. I break down the mechanics of the human brain like this every single week. Stick around because the final method is the one that truly shifts your perspective on everything. Okay, remember how I said there was a third superior method? This is the one that most people simply refuse to do. It's called the pre-mortem analysis. Most people wait until disaster hits before they evaluate their beliefs. You're going to do it beforehand. This technique was popularized by Gary Klein, a cognitive psychologist who studied how experts make high stakes decisions. Whenever he worked with teams in the military or the corporate sector, he would ask them to assume that they were 1 year in the future and that their project had completely failed. It was a total catastrophe. Then he asked them to write the story of why it failed. By creating a hypothetical failure, you bypass the defensive mechanisms that keep you from seeing your own blind spots. When you think, I am right, your brain blocks out threats. When you think, I have already failed, your brain goes into hyper analytical mode to figure out the risks. This is the ultimate tool against confirmation bias. Let me give you an example. A friend of mine was looking to leave his corporate job to start a consulting business. He was absolutely convinced that he had a unique value proposition that clients were begging for. He ignored the fact that 3 other competitors had failed in the exact same niche over the last 18 months. I sat him down and told him to run a pre-mortem. I told him, assume it's 1 year from now. You have zero clients, you've burned through your savings, and you're looking for a job again. Why did this happen? He sat there for a long time. He started writing. At first, he blamed the market. Then he got honest. He wrote that he had failed to validate the pricing. He ignored the difficulty of cold calling, and he spent too much time on branding instead of sales. He found the gaps in his own plan because he stopped trying to prove he was right and started trying to solve for his own failure. He ended up pivoting his business model before he spent a single dollar on the launch. He didn't lose his business, he saved it. That one shift alone, the move from I am right to what if I fail, will do more for your decision making than any book or seminar you could ever attend. It sounds counterintuitive, but by inviting failure into your thought process early, you prevent it from happening in real life. So let's recap. You now know that your brain is hardwired for emotional comfort, not objective truth. You have the tool of the devil's advocate search to challenge your initial assumptions. You have the psychological framework of decoupling your identity from your beliefs to stop the backfire effect. And you have the pre-mortem to force your brain to find its own blind spots. Once you start using these, you can't unsee them. You'll start noticing them in your friends, your family, and most importantly, in your own internal monologue. It's a bit like learning to drive a car for the first time. At first, you're hyper aware of every movement, but eventually, it becomes your natural way of thinking. You become a person who seeks the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. If you found value in this deep dive, share it with someone who needs to hear it. It's the best way to help the channel grow so I can keep making these videos for you. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. I have a project in the works about the sunk cost fallacy that's going to build on exactly what we discussed today. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for spending your time with me. I'll see you in the next one.